Hey guys, it's Becky with Becky's Mindful Kitchen. I'm really excited to do some cooking with you today. Today we're going to be making fresh pasta dough. This is definitely one of the most popular classes I teach, not only for kids but for adults as well. It's a lifelong recipe, and once you learn how to do it, there's so many things you can do with it. You can make your own lasagna noodles, your own egg noodles, your own ravioli, tortellini, penne pasta, spaghetti, linguine. I mean, there's a lot you can do. And then you can even make up your own pasta shapes. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. Today, I'm just going to show you how to make the dough and then how to roll it out and make a few simple pastas from that. And then perhaps another time, we can get back together and learn how to make fresh ricotta cheese and use that to make ravioli and tortellini together. To make this recipe, you only need 3 ingredients. You're going to need eggs, salt, and flour. The flour that you need to use, there's a couple different ones you can use. You can use a couple of special pasta flours, but I'd rather show you guys how to use it just using a regular all-purpose flour that you probably already have in your kitchen. In my other classes, we go into kind of more specialty flours, but today I'm just using plain old flour, okay? As far as how many eggs you need, it's up to you. The more eggs you use, the more pasta you make. I'm going to show you guys how to make the pasta dough just using 1 egg. And that's just because it's actually really late tonight when I'm recording this and I'm the only one up, and so it's just going to be me eating the pasta. If you want to be making pasta for yourself and your parents and maybe a few other siblings, you might want to use 3 or 4 eggs. That will make a really nice big meal. 2 eggs is definitely enough for 2 people. I also recommend that maybe you just start with 1 egg and get really comfortable making the dough, and then once you have that down, make as much as you like. This pasta can be boiled fresh, or you can dry it and have it on hand just like you would any other dry pasta. Really, really easy. The other equipment you need, you guys, is you just need a bowl. Not a very big bowl at all, okay? You're going to need a rolling pin. Any type of rolling pin works. And if you don't have a rolling pin, then maybe you have a bottle that could work, like a bottle of olive oil or vinegar, something that has a screw-on lid that you can use to roll out your dough. Like I said before, you're going to need some flour, and then you're also going to need some salt. You don't need to use any measuring cups or spoons for this unless you want to. As far as cutting out our pasta shapes, the ones we're doing today, all you need is a pizza cutter or a knife for that. If you're going to be boiling your pasta fresh, you're going to want a pot of boiling water, and you want to add some salt to that boiling water. Fresh pasta only takes about 2 minutes to boil, so it's really quick at that point. All right, so let's get started. First things first, make sure you've washed your hands. That's one of the biggest rules here in the kitchen. No matter what, you always want to start with clean hands, all right? Then you're going to take your egg. I'm going to show you guys how to do a one-handed egg crack. To do a one-handed egg crack, you're going to need, see, this is when I lose my Sharpies. Here we go. I'm going to show you my trick, okay? So, I always draw on a face on my egg, all right? We're going to call this Bob. Sorry that I had to choose a green Sharpie that doesn't show up too well. All right, this is Bob, all right? So, to crack Bob, hold on. Found myself a black Sharpie. There we go. Now you'll be able to see Bob better. All right. Bob, all right? Bob's about to have a not very good day. One-handed egg crack. You're going to take your 2 fingers here. You're going to cover Bob's eyes so he doesn't see what's about to happen. And then you take your thumb and you're going to cover Bob's mouth so he can't scream, okay? And then you're going to crack Bob right above the mouth, all right? So I'm taking my egg, got my bowl, okay? Let me turn this down, a one-woman show here, all right? And we're cracking Bob, and we're opening him up, okay? Out comes Bob, and then you end up with the talking Bob puppet, all right? That's a one-handed egg crack. We always practice that here at the cooking school because that way you're always keeping this other hand clean, which is nice. But regardless, whenever you have raw eggs on your hands, take a moment, you guys, to go ahead and wash your hands up. It's always good to have clean hands ever possible when cooking, okay? So I'm going to wash my hands real quick. Now, that was not a full 20-second hand wash. And the reason it wasn't is because of it's me. I know I washed my eggs. I know where my eggs came from. And because we're going to be working with that dough, I'm okay with not doing the full hand wash. Make sure when you do need to do a full hand wash, you are doing the 20 seconds. All right, eggs in a bowl. Then you're going to take your salt. If you're just doing 1 or 2 eggs, you just need to kind of do a good big pinch of salt, about half a teaspoon or so. The way I describe a pinch of salt, guys, is if your hands happen to be under the age of 12, you're going to want to use 2 fingers. If your hands are older than 12, you only need 1, okay? So you're doing 2 pinches of salt. Ready? And make sure you just have some fun with it, right? So throw that in there, 2 pinches of salt, boom. If you're doing like 4 eggs, you're going to probably want to do a good solid teaspoon, teaspoon and a half of salt in there, okay? All right, so we got our salt. Now, we need to grab a fork. I gotta tell you about the fork deal. Fork or a whisk. I like to use a fork. I'm actually not a big fan of whisks. Many of you guys know that from my classes. All right, so we're beating up that egg. All right, when we beat our egg, you want to make sure that it's fully incorporated so you don't see any of that egg white and it's just all one solid color. Hopefully a nice happy yellow. All right. So we got that down. Next up, guys, is a real simple, easy part. Let's scoot y'all back here. All right. We're going to just start adding flour to our bowl. If we were in Italy, guys, we'd be doing it a little differently. What we would do in Italy is we would take our flour and we'd have it on our counter and we'd make a well in the middle and we'd crack our egg in there and then kind of create our dough that way. Doing it this way keeps the mess down to a minimum. And in my kitchen, and in all my classes I teach online, the rule is if you are a kid cooking in the kitchen, you also have to do the cleanup. So this way, you don't have to do as much cleanup. I think you're going to want to do it this way, okay? Also, by doing it this way, we don't have to measure anything. We are simply going to add flour until our dough comes together. So I'm going to start with, this is about a 1/3 cup or so, all right? And it's just, I randomly grabbed a cup, all right? It doesn't matter. But for 1 egg, you're going to add a scoop of flour at a time to your bowl. And then you are going to mix in that flour. Once your dough gets to a point where it's kind of hard to mix and all is sticking onto your fork like that. All right, so for 1 egg, you're probably looking at about a 1/2 cup of flour only. But in our classes, we just kind of spoon it in until it gets to that amount. Because it's more important to me, guys, that you know what you're looking for rather than memorizing an exact measurement. Anybody can follow recipes, but I'd rather teach you guys how to cook, all right? So see how this is all clumpy, right? It's getting kind of hard. So once it looks like this, you're going to put it onto your counter. Now, just a reminder, guys, in our bowl, all you have right now is your egg, some salt, and some flour, okay? And we've mixed it all together until it looks like this, right? At this point, we're going to knead our dough. So kneading our dough is a really fun technique. And guess what? That's the best part about kneading pasta dough. It's a lot easier than bread dough. To knead your dough, you're going to be put some flour in a little pile on your counter. At this point, guys, you don't want to add any extra flour than you have to. So if you were to cover your whole counter with flour, chances are your dough is going to get way too dry. So instead, I just make a little pile to the side. I take my ball of dough, I kind of dab it in there, kind of roll it in there, and then I bring it back to a clean part of my counter. And then I start kneading it. Now, if we were doing bread dough, we'd be pushing out with the heel of our hand, okay? Folding back and turning and pushing and folding, doing it that way. Well, I don't have much dough here, so I'm just going to kind of use my fingers. I'm going to be pushing it, kind of turning it, and working the dough. The reason I like pasta to teach the kids is because I did an experiment. My kids started making their own pasta around the age of 3. And I would do an experiment with them where I would give them their dough and I'd say, just play with it like Play-Doh. And then I would be next to them and I'd be kneading it the proper way. And after about 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, you couldn't really tell the difference between my dough and their dough. So the one thing that's great about making pasta is you got a really cool stress ball. So let's say you kind of had a rough day, right? Maybe you had to clean your room, you didn't want to, or you just were kind of fighting with your brothers or sisters or with your parents or with a friend. You get to just take your ball of dough and just kind of play with it. And just have fun. Stretch it, fold it, squeeze it, really kind of work through it. You don't want your ball of dough to be very sticky, okay? And you don't want it to be super dry. You're looking for that happy middle part where it really does feel like a nice, soft stress ball. It'll take about 5 minutes or so of working your dough. If you have 10 minutes, give it 10 minutes, okay? What you're looking for, I'll show you kind of what I'm doing to it. So I'm just kind of working my dough, and again, I'm not over drying it, not putting too much flour, because we're going to do a lot of flour and roll it out, okay? So we're going to do like a pretend fast forward on this, so you don't watch me do this for 5 minutes, okay? So I'm going to do a little cheat. Okay, and work the dough. You want to work your dough, so this is my cheating part, okay? So I'm going to roll into a nice ball. You want to work until it's a nice soft ball of dough. That when you can bring it together, there's not a lot of cracks and has a lot of good stretch to it. Once you do that, okay, and if your dough is super goopy, guys, what I always call like monster snot, if it's really, really goopy, you're adding more flour, all right? If your dough gets super dry, all right, where it's like almost like crusty and there's nothing, kind of really hard to squeeze, then go ahead and just add a little bit of water. And by add a little water, I mean take your bowl that you have made your pasta dough in, put some water in there and just kind of dab your dough in there, and that'll kind of rehydrate that. Now, this dough, it needs to chill out for a bit. Most of the time, whenever we knead a dough, we also have to give it time to set and rest, all right? And that relaxes the dough. If we were going to try to roll it out right now, your dough would be so stressed that it wouldn't let you roll it out. And the way I describe it is, like if you've ever been like really, I don't know, like kind of stressed out or like tired or something, and then like your parent keeps like pushing you on something, and like you just want to break, like you just need a second to relax, but like someone just keeps like hammering at you, like saying like, hey, you need to clean your room, go do this, go do that, and you just are like, oh. And if they keep pushing you, the more tense you get. So that's the same with your dough. If your dough is really kind of tense and stressed out, if you keep trying to roll it out when it's like that, it's just going to get stressed and stressed, and it's not going to let you roll it out. But if you just let it rest, it relaxes. And then you can get a really nice, thin sheet of pasta. All right? Same with probably yourself. Like if people just leave you alone for a second and you get a chance to relax, all of a sudden, like, you're usually more agreeable to things, right? Same as your dough. So you're going to let your dough rest for about 5 minutes. We don't want it to dry out. So the best way to kind of keep that from happening, a couple of little things. One, you could take like a piece of saran wrap, like plastic wrap, and put that over your pasta dough, right? That'll keep it from drying out. Or you could kind of put it back into your bowl and cover your bowl. Or if you have like a towel, a damp towel that you can put over it, make sure you're using a towel, like a dish towel, that it's clean and that it doesn't have a lot of fuzzies on it, okay? Because you don't want to have fuzzy pasta dough. All right, got it? We good on that one? All right, so we're going to let it rest for about 5 minutes. While I let mine rest, that's usually when I get my water boiling. And again, I'm boiling some water, so if you're doing this on your own, you might want to make sure you have help with the stove part. I'm also adding salt to my water, okay? Just a little note too, if you want to make like different colored pasta, you definitely can do that. And I recommend doing that using some herbs and spices. So you could add in some fresh or dried herbs in with your flour, and then you have like a speckled pasta. You could add in beet powder to make it a pink pasta. You could add in tomato powder for a red pasta. You could add in like carrot powders. There's a bunch of different powders of vegetables that you can buy, like spinach powder to make green pasta. But you could also use like real veggies. You could add in the juice of a beet. You could add in some actual like cooked spinach, okay, and that'll give it that nice green color. So there's lots of little fun things you can do to make colored pasta, just like the fancy pastas you see in the store. All right, so again, for the sake of the fact that I gotta get to bed because it's really late, I'm gonna get my pasta rolling now. I know my dough is relaxed enough that I can roll it out, but if you start to roll out your pasta and it's really tough, give it some time, okay? To roll out our pasta, we do need to put some flour down on the surface, okay? So we're gonna take our flour, we're gonna cover our counter with the flour. All right, there we go. During this process of rolling it out, we want to make sure that we are constantly kind of flipping our dough over to make sure it's not sticking. Because the last thing we want to do is to roll it out to a beautiful thin sheet of pasta and then it's stuck and there's nothing you can do about it. All right, so I have my rolling pin, I have my pasta, and I have flour. I'm going to start rolling it out. The way I like to use my rolling pin, I know this one doesn't have handles, but if yours does have handles, I still like to teach people to put your hands in the middle because it gives you a lot more control over where your pressure on the rolling pin is. And so you can get a lot thinner. So you want to really roll your dough out as thin as possible. That's because when you boil it, guys, it's going to thicken up. And the last thing you want is have a big, thick piece of pasta. If you have designs on your countertop like I do, you want to roll your dough out thin enough that you can see through it onto your countertop. Or if you were to hold it up to a light, you'd be able to kind of see the light shining through. Now you might get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot get this any thinner. Well, if that's the case, a little trick that I learned, and what I use when I'm making like wontons and pot stickers and stuff like that, and I need really thin dough, is I put a lot of flour, okay, a lot of flour down onto the sheet of pasta like this. And then I fold over my sheet of pasta, take my rolling pin, and then continue to roll. And then I take this and I open it back up. And it's a nice way to kind of cheat, but in a good way cheat. I don't know, there is a good way to cheat. To kind of get your pasta dough that much thinner. Now this is just one egg. You can see that I got a good amount of dough out of that, guys. Definitely enough for my midnight snack. All right. If your pasta tears at all, guys, or you try to lift it up and it sticks, it's okay. Just kind of fix the rip, take your hands, dip it in a little bowl of water, kind of seal up any holes, and you're totally fine. All right, so once your pasta dough is nice and thin, really, really thin, okay? That's the time that we get to cut it and make some fun shapes with it. Again, I'm just going to show you a couple really basic ones, and then hopefully we can get together another time and make more complicated ones, okay? And filled ones. Those are the fun ones. Now, if you want to make lasagna, and I do have a video on my Facebook page too, if your parents want to help bring it up, of how to make lasagna from scratch. You'll have your sheet of pasta. You take your pizza cutter or a knife, okay, and you're going to just cut out slices of dough, whatever shape of like a lasagna noodle you want. So nice thick shapes like that. You would then boil this, you guys, for just 30 seconds. Pull it out, and it's ready to be put in your tray to in your baking dish to make lasagna. Really awesome and easy. Okay. Now, let's say you want to make egg noodles for chicken noodle soup or veggie noodle soup. Same sort of thing. You're just going to be cutting thinner slices. And have some nice, awesome egg noodles. But let's say we want to have a little bit more fun and make some spaghetti or linguine. We're going to do that. We're going to get lots of good flour onto our sheet here. And then we're going to roll up our dough. Okay. Making sure we kind of flour once in a while as we roll. And this is one that's kind of fun to do if you're working with a sibling or a friend or your parent. Kind of two-person job. All right. So I have my pasta all rolled up like this. Then I take my pizza cutter. I'm always going to kind of cut off the little end like that, right? And then I'm just going to go through and cut nice, thin cuts. And then you kind of hand it to whoever you're working with or by yourself. And then you just unravel your pasta. You got some nice, good linguine and fettuccine. Now, could you do this for spaghetti? Yes. Do I ever do it this way for spaghetti? No, because that would take a really long time. And honestly, I don't have the time to sit down doing that for spaghetti. And I actually have a pasta roller that I go through, and it cuts it really thin for spaghetti. But you can do that. Just because I don't give myself enough time to make spaghetti noodles by hand like this doesn't mean that you don't. And you probably should. And I probably should too, all right? So you can make really nice thin noodles too, doing it that way. What about penne pasta? Penne pasta is the pasta with like the hole in the middle, kind of like a little tube. Super easy to make. The way to do that, guys, again, just have our pasta dough here. I'm going to cut out a square. It doesn't have to be exact, all right? And then all you need is like a pen or a skewer. This is me looking for my pen. Okay, get a pen, make sure it's clean. This is my pasta pen. All right, you have two ways of doing it. You can take your square and you wrap it around your pen or your skewer, whatever you want to do. That, seal the ends, okay, and then pull out. And you got penne like that. Or you take it and you connect the corners like this. And pull that out and you have a piece of pasta like that. All right. The final one I'm going to show you guys tonight, and all of these guys, again, you're boiling it in water for about 2 minutes, is the bowtie pasta. Bowtie pasta, you can get a rectangular piece like this, okay? You choose how big you want to do it. So I have my rectangle, and then I'm going to take my fingers, I'm going to pinch the middle. You got your bow tie pasta. Super easy, guys. Definitely one of the most popular ones to do because it's really easy and quick. But how fun is it to say that you made your own bow tie pasta? Again, rectangle, pinch the middle, bow tie. All of those, you guys, except for the lasagna noodles, which you would only boil for 30 seconds. Everything else is just 2 minutes in boiling salted water. Pull it out, drain it, serve it. It's delicious. If you wanted to make these noodles and dry them, you definitely can do that. Simply make all your shapes and then lay them out on a clean surface. You can drape if you're doing long like egg noodles, you can drape it over something so air can get to both sides and just let it lay out until it dries. Depending on the type of pasta you make, how you lay it out, and the humidity in your house, it doesn't take that long. It can take anywhere for a few hours to just overnight to dry out your pasta. Once it's totally dry, just store it as you would any other dry pasta. All right, we did a lot in just like 25 minutes. You guys did awesome. I'm thinking. I can't actually see, so I don't know, but I'm gonna be optimistic that you did. I hope you had fun, and I really hope to see you guys for another class. Happy eating.